Police foil protesters' attempt to lay siege to government headquarters. An off-duty policeman injured after being attacked by protesters in Admiralty. And an interim injunction order covering part of the Admiralty occupied area.
Hello and a very good evening. Fierce clashes broke out between occupied protesters and the police last night and early this morning on Longwar Road near Admiralty. It came after the Federation of Students and Scholarism announced that they were stepping up their campaign in their fight for genuine universal suffrage. Well, you're looking at live shots right now from Admiralty where things are looking calmer tonight. This is in sharp contrast with yesterday. Police said 40 people were arrested in the protest overnight and 17 police officers were injured while managing the crowd. Authorities also said a number of weapons were seized from protesters. Evelyn Leung tells us more about how the clashes unfolded overnight.
Protesters broke through police cordons at about 10 last night and rushed onto Longwoo Road near the chief executive's office. Police tried to usher the protesters back onto the pavement, but their calls fell on deaf ears. More protesters ran onto the road, bringing traffic to a halt. Police then used batons and pepper spray to disperse the crowd. However, they were met by protesters who used metal barriers to charge at the police line. Authorities managed to subdue some protesters, but not without any injuries. Shortly after, the protesters charged the police cordon once again. Some even threw objects, including eggs and powder, at police officers. At around 1:30 in the morning, police used batons and tear gas to clear out the crowd. Some protesters responded by directing fire extinguishers at the officers. Yet many demonstrators ran off the street onto the pavement. Authorities then arrested a number of people. One of the two lanes on Longwar Road was reopened to traffic just before 3 a.m. Yet about 45 minutes later, the protesters retook Longwoo Road. They used wooden boards and rubbish bins, among other things, to block off the thoroughfare. Some protesters also broke into a nearby construction site and took away bricks and other objects. At about 7 a.m., police sprayed water on the protesters and then drove them off the road towards Tamar Park. Police subdued more people. A protester sustained injuries to his head. Police eventually pushed the crowd back to the bridge linking Admiralty Center and the central government offices. At around 7:30, Longwoo Road was reopened to traffic. However, the chaos wasn't over yet. Outside an exit of the Admiralty MTR station, scuffles broke out between protesters and 3 off-duty policemen in plain clothes over the removal of barricades. One officer ended up lying on the ground. He was later carried away on a stretcher. One suspect was arrested while 2 fled the scene. The police meanwhile said it had confiscated a number of weapons from the protesters throughout the night. Among the items seized are metal rods, wooden sticks, wooden boards with protruding nails, and bricks. We walked around the area near Longwoo Road and found different objects left behind by the demonstrators, including wooden boards wrapped with cardboards. The police claimed the protesters used these weapons to attack them. Evelyn Leung, TVB News.
Student leaders have acknowledged that their plans to block government buildings failed. Meanwhile, government officials condemned the protesters' actions and appealed to them to leave the occupied areas. Ronnie Samtani reports.
The Hong Kong Federation of Students admitted this afternoon that their plan to disrupt government operations had failed.
we could of course say that we have done it for a short time of period, but ultimately, well, the occupiers, they are eliminated by the police to other spots. So we would say, well, the plan, it requires and it has lots of room to improve, and it is, in a sense, it fails at last.
Chow also noted that the strength of the campaign has been waning since the start of the movement. The government issued a statement condemning the protesters for deliberately storming police cordon lines and blocking access to the central government offices and Lungwa Road. It said such acts show blatant disregard for the law and endanger public safety. Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying, along with other government officials, also criticized the protesters' actions. Leung said that the government has been extremely patient about the occupation over the past 2 months, but people cannot tolerate it anymore, and there are increased calls for a clearance, he said. He appealed to the protesters to go home. Secretary for Security Lai Tung-kwok said the police will take decisive enforcement action to restore public order. He said the protesters' behavior is a complete departure from the peaceful, nonviolent principles the organizers had claimed to uphold.
I think what happened last night fully demonstrates that it has far away gone beyond what they have declared. The police, after repeated warnings, have to take resolute actions. They have no choice because it is a duty to restore law and order.
It is obvious that these troublemakers have committed the violent act in a premeditated and organized manner. Their behaviors were completely irrational.
Operations at the central government offices resumed this afternoon, but because obstacles remained at the escalators linking the bridge to the entrance, civil servants had to take a longer route to get back to work.
It creates some inconvenience for us. I'm going to take another way to go back to the office.
Pan-democratic lawmakers have been allowing the students to use their offices and conference rooms in the Legislative Council building to discuss their protest actions. A group of pro-establishment lawmakers criticized the students' actions last night and expressed opposition to the student leaders being allowed to enter the complex.
Actually, the Legislative Council both has the privilege as well as the duty to ensure that actually we are upholding the rule of law. We cannot harbor anyone to instruct a crime to occur.
The group called for the LegCo Secretariat to get a court injunction to bar members of scholarism and the Hong Kong Federation of Students from entering the complex. Ronnie Samtani, TVB News.
The High Court today granted an interim injunction order covering a portion of the occupied area in Admiralty. Our Owen Fung reports.
Earlier, two bus companies, Kwun Chung Motors and All China Express, applied for injunctions that would cover parts of Corner Road Central, Harcourt Road and Cotton Tree Drive. Today, High Court Judge Thomas Au rejected Kwun Chung Motors' application but granted an injunction for All China Express. In relation to Kwun Chung Motors' application, Au wrote that the loss suffered by the tour bus company is not substantial enough. He added that the inconvenience and hardship suffered by the company's drivers and students using their services cannot be regarded as the plaintiff's damage or injury. And on All China Express's application, Au wrote that the loss of income suffered by the cross-border bus service provider needs to be resolved at a full trial. And if an injunction is not granted in the meantime, Au continued, the company will have suffered in the interim further loss and damage. The court has asked All China Express to provide precise details of the area covered by the injunction by Thursday. Chairman of Kwun Chung Bus Holdings, Matthew Wong, said he'll discuss with his legal team on the next step. He added that bailiffs will carry out the injunction order and if necessary they'll seek assistance from the police. Meanwhile, one of the defendants, Kwok Chuk Kin, said he's disappointed with the judgment and will appeal. Owen Fung, TVB News.
And Financial Secretary John Tsang once again expressed concern about Hong Kong's economic prospects amid the Occupy crisis. He said while the city's financial system and foreign trade output remains normal since the protest movement began, there are risks if it continues. Tsang says the SAR's international image could be damaged. while investor confidence in the city could be undermined the longer the crisis drags on. The Financial Secretary is not optimistic about the city's economic growth in the fourth quarter. He predicts Hong Kong's full-year economic growth will be around 2.2%. On to some other news now. Taiwan's cabinet resigned en masse today following the ruling Kuomintang's defeat in local elections. The island's president, Ma Ying-jeou, is expected to resign as party chairman later this week. But analysts say whoever becomes his successor will still lose to the Democratic Progressive Party in the 2016 presidential election. Stephanie Choi reports.
This morning, 80 members of Taiwan's cabinet followed Premier Jiang Yihua's lead and resigned. Until President Ma Ying-jeou appoints a new leader for the executive yuan, the cabinet members will serve in caretaker roles. Jiang tendered his resignation Saturday night after the ruling Kuomintang suffered a humiliating defeat in local elections. Taiwanese media reports say incumbent Taipei City Mayor Hao Longpin has his eye on the KMT chairmanship. Hao had said Ma should resign if the party is defeated. If Ma resigns, this may mean either a change in party regulations, which state that the Taiwanese president must be party chairman, or Ma's concurrent resignation from the presidency. Some analysts say the future KMT chairperson will become the Blue Camp's face for the 2016 presidential election. Wu Denyi, Taiwan's vice president and the KMT's first vice chairman, and new Taipei City Mayor Eric Chu are possible Blue Camp representatives. But Wu resigned as KMT vice chairman this morning. And although Chu is a local favorite, the number of votes that got him re-elected was lower than expected. This analyst says whoever takes over the KMT leadership won't be a threat to the Democratic Progressive Party. He adds if Wu and Chu join forces for the 2016 presidential election, they would still lose. As for the DPP, many believe that Tsai Ing-wen, who triumphed in Saturday's elections, will once again represent the Green Camp in the 2016 presidential race. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
And still ahead in our newscast, Swiss voters reject proposals to boost gold reserves and impose new curbs on immigration. Thailand's crown prince revokes the royally assigned family name of his wife. And improved train services for the MTR Chungkwano line next week.
We are not just individual creatures, we also whole ecosystems.
Every human is a world of its own.
The surface of the human planet is populated by a fantastic variety of life forms. They can be found on most of us.
Tonight, Culturalin GP Extra Special. Well-being, you, planet, at 9:30 on Pearl.
Direct Asia, best price guaranteed on car insurance. That's a wrap. DirectAsia.com, best price guaranteed on car insurance. Easy.
Planter 39 from Germany speaks frankly about hair loss in women. From the age of 40, the female bodily constitution changes. Thin hair and hair loss are the consequences. With Planter 39, things are looking up again. A novel caffeine therapy from Germany for hair over the age of 40. Planter 39.
Do you dream in chocolate? Taste the Lindor truffle, created with passion by Lind's master chocolatiers. When Lindor's irresistible center starts to melt, so will you. Smooth, flowing, luscious chocolate like no other. The Lindor truffle from Lindt.
Can be beautiful. A memory, a dream, but it's no place to live. The only way out is up. And it's not heaven, it's a new world. The future is gold. J'adore. Dior.
The time now is 7:44. The time check was brought to you by Seiko.